Apple finally revealed their iPhone 13 lineup, but they conveniently left out many things about the regular iPhone 13 and the 13 Pro. Both good things and not so good. Now, some of these will affect which iPhone model you should buy, along with storage options and accessories you should go with, so make sure to pay attention as we go through everything we found about these new phones. Let's start with some simple ones. The first is a bummer to me personally, and that's the fact that all of the new iPhones are thicker and heavier this year. Now, the Mini is only 5% heavier and it was already lightweight, so it doesn't matter that much. The regular 13 is 6% heavier or 10 grams, still not too bad, but the iPhone 13 Pro, which was already heavy, now weighs 204 grams, or the same exact as the Note 20 Ultra, which is much larger with a huge battery and an S Pen. The 13 Pro Max, which was already a big boy, now weighs 240 grams. That's starting to get close to a Galaxy Fold 3 or an iPad Mini 6, and that is thanks to a thicker stainless steel frame with bigger batteries and camera bumps. Speaking of those bumps, Apple kept showing off renders of them, but what they didn't actually mention is that they are massive and so much larger and thicker than the iPhone 13 camera bumps, which themselves are bigger than the iPhone 12 models. These things stick out so much that Apple is now putting rings on the outside of their cases to protect the huge lenses. So if you're somebody who hates big bumps, or when your phone rocks back and forth on your desk, keep that in mind. On the flip side, we have the notch, which for the first time since its release in the iPhone 10 has been changed. Apple said it's now 20% smaller thanks to a reduction in width, but what they conveniently left out is that it is actually taller than it was before. I knew that something looked off when I saw it, and it reminded me of the hideous Pixel 3 XL unibrow, but now I know why. Let's mention a few positives before we get into more negatives. If you're somebody that paid an arm and a leg to replace broken or cracked back glass, AppleCare can now be used to replace cracked back glass for only $29 instead of the previous $100, or a massive $599 on an iPhone 12 Pro Max or the 13 Pro Max if you don't have AppleCare, so make sure to buy that if you're not going to use the case. With that, these new iPhones now support dual eSIMs, so if you'd like, you can finally skip using a SIM card at all, but don't expect 3 separate SIMs to work. Along with that, it seems like Apple is completely stopping shipping its iPhones with SIM cards altogether. Along with that, even though Apple didn't mention it, it does seem like they are using brand new 5G modems on these new iPhones for 2 reasons. The first being that the whole 13 lineup has additional bands, which also means that the 13 and the 13 mini have the same exact data speeds and connectivity as the Pro models. But with that, we're also seeing an improvement in battery life for streaming video, which likely means that this new modem is a 5nm one like the Snapdragon X60 or possibly a different one instead of the power-hungry X55 in the iPhone 12s, but more on battery life in just a bit. And now onto something that I was extremely excited about, but after digging into some fine print, I am definitely way more skeptical, not as optimistic, and that is the brand new cinematic video mode. This is an absolute breakthrough in video tech that destroys what Samsung has been doing for years now. Instead of baking in this unnatural blur that ruins your video if it goes off a bit, you can actually apply and adjust the effect in post. You can also select if you want it to focus on faces and rack focus automatically, or select the people that you want to be the main focus and even change focus between objects. You can also adjust how much blur it adds so it doesn't look too fake, or completely remove it if the scene doesn't work out. There is nothing out there that matches this level of control other than a real camera, so it is no wonder that Apple spent so much time on it. But there is just one catch that they didn't mention, and that is the fact that it only works when shooting 1080p video and only at 30 frames per second. Now I know why so much of the video looks soft when they showed it off, and I can't understand why it's limited to 1080p. There's just so much data that needs to be processed, and of course, they do want to upsell you on the iPhone 14 Pro, which will probably be able to do it in 4K, but it is still a bummer to go back to 1080p video after shooting 4K since the iPhone 6s. Yes, that was a while ago. Apple also confirmed the long-rumored ProRes recording, making the iPhone a more pro video device. They cleverly mentioned that the 13 Pro can shoot ProRes, meaning the regular 13 can't, which is acceptable, but they also snuck in that the 13 Pro can shoot cinematic video or ProRes, meaning not both. So you either get the cool blur or less compression artifacts, and there is one more catch. If you buy a 128 gig iPhone 13 Pro, like I always do since I use iCloud, they are also limiting that ProRes recording to 1080p, just like the cinematic mode. Man, I guess 2021 is the year of 1080p. If you want to shoot ProRes in 4K, you better cough up some extra cash for at least 256 gigabytes of storage. So yes, this is a software limitation just to save you on storage space. Now on the positive side, this year, thankfully, there are no camera differences between the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max like we had last year. So if you like the smaller size or you want to save $100 and put that towards extra storage, you are not going to lose out like you did with the iPhone 12 Pro. And with that, we will likely have the biggest camera quality differences we have ever seen between the regular and the Pro models. Just take another look at the size difference of the camera bumps. Even though the 13 is inheriting the iPhone 12 Pro Max's camera system with the sensor stabilization and the photos will be good, the Pro models are getting massive updates and they're going to be a lot better. They have new 3x zoom lenses with night mode capabilities, the much upgraded ultra-wide camera that not only captures a lot more light, but can now take insane macro shots, which is not possible with the iPhone 13 or the 13 mini. And even though Apple finally gave 4K 60 HDR video capture support to the 13, which was just a software limitation before, we still don't have night mode portrait support, which makes a massive difference in these kinds of low light shots. If you guys want to see an ultra detailed camera comparison between the iPhone 13 and the 13 Pro, hit that subscribe button below, and with that, you guys can help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers. We would definitely appreciate it. Now, as you may have seen, the iPhone 13 gained 2.5 hours of battery life compared to the iPhone 12, whereas the 13 Pro only gained 1.5 hours. Now that is because of the new ProMotion display that could take more power, but what Apple didn't specifically mention is that it can also use less power as well. If we look at the detailed battery life specs, you'll see that when watching video, the 13 Pro actually gets 3 extra hours of video playback from the device itself, or up to 5 extra hours when streaming compared to the iPhone 13. Now I'm not sure why there's a bigger difference when streaming than from local storage, maybe because of the extra graphics being more efficient, but the better battery life is definitely because of the new ProMotion display dropping all the way down to 10 Hz instead of being locked at 60 Hz. This means that when you're watching movies or videos, the display can match 24 or 30 FPS to have less judder and to save battery, and the same thing goes for games. This is basically like G-Sync, so if you're playing games at lower frame rates, it will feel smoother and you will save battery. So basically, even though Apple said the 13 will have better battery, it really depends on what you do, so don't buy the 13 just for that. And along with that, they also didn't mention the amounts of RAM these phones have. The 13 Pro still has 6 gigabytes, while the 13 has 4 gigabytes. So unfortunately, we don't have any changes, but we did get a processor change, of course, the A15, but Apple was very sly about that. They were very vague in performance, stating things like the fastest processors ever and better than competition, but that is because not that much of an improvement has been made on the CPU side, probably the smallest upgrade in years, only jumping from 4200 up to 4800 in the Pro Max models. But thankfully, on the graphics side, we have really good improvements, at least with the iPhone 13 Pro models, 5-core graphics. Leaked Geekbench Metal scores show 14,200, which is insane performance upgrade compared to the iPhone 12 Pro Max's 9,000, or close to 60%. But if you go for the iPhone 13, that drops all the way down to 10,600, which isn't really worth upgrading for. So if you play games, definitely go for the Pro model. Now the last discovery is a bit of a funny one. one. iPhones have been able to fast charge to 50% in 30 minutes for many years now, but this year Apple didn't mention that this is no longer the case if you buy the 13 Pro Max. It will now take 35 minutes to reach 50% with a 20-watt power adapter because that is no longer enough to charge its bigger battery. Now sure, the 5 extra minutes doesn't really matter, but what Apple also didn't mention is that the Pro Max models can actually accept more than 20 watts of charging. The 12 Pro Max accepted up to 23 watts, so who knows, this one might do 25, 26, 27. We'll test it out once we get it. So if you're buying a fast charger for your Pro Max and you want the fastest speeds, pick up at least a 30-watt charger to get the fastest speed. I'll go ahead and link one down below along with the 20-watt Anchor for just 11 bucks. That's tiny and has prongs. We highly recommend that one as well. So thank you guys for watching. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Click that subscribe button above to help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers. We would greatly appreciate it. Check out one of those great videos over there. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next video.